Number 15, Daniel Solins says, would you recommend current Christians develop an awareness of Scripture that is no longer canon? Greatly appreciate your YouTube ministry. You've encouraged me to start a YouTube myself. That's great. I'm glad about that. I hope we get more and more Christians starting YouTube channels and doing it with integrity and walking the line and being faithful. And the only advice I'd give you there is, Daniel, be very, very patient and have your integrity commitments before all other commitments. So Christians developing an awareness of Scripture that is no longer canon. There is no such thing as Scripture that is no longer canon. And I don't think you meant it that way, Daniel. I'm just going to respond in case people are hearing it that way. If it was ever Scripture, it is still Scripture. And Christians, we don't decide what's part of the Bible or not. The canon is simply a fact of reality. It just is what it is. Like, God inspired these books, they're canon. Whether you include them or acknowledge them or not, they are canon. Then we have our list, which is our opinions about what actually is canon. And I believe that the list that the Protestants have is the correct list. And it's the list that that Jesus would approve, in my opinion. I believe it's the list that represents actual canon. But when I say that 1st and 2nd Maccabees don't belong in the Bible, I'm not saying they're no longer canon. And I don't think they're Scripture, because that's a term I would use to describe what is part of canon. I think they never were at any point part of it, and that they were included in some people's lists mistakenly. So would I recommend that Christians develop an awareness of these things? It depends. Every Christian does not need to go and read 1st and 2nd Maccabees. Some of you should, right? Like, let's say that like me, you want to interact with Roman Catholics. So you should probably be aware of the extra writings they have in their version of the Old Testament. Might help to read 1st and 2nd Maccabees. You want to interact with Orthodox. Well, you might want to read 3rd and 4th Maccabees, And so these are the different editions that they have. And so I think it can be helpful to do that. If you're studying ancient Jewish stuff and you really want to understand the culture and the time of Christ, then you might want to read some intertestamental literature that's not canon, it's not Scripture, it never was, but it's just intertestamental. You might read Enoch, not because it's Bible, but because it gives you some contextual understanding that you can look into doing your serious studies of things like the book of Jude, So that can be there. I think we just need clarity on what is Scripture and what is not. So I don't read them like they're, Bell and the Dragon. I'm not reading it like it's part of Daniel. I'm reading it like it's some extra edition that doesn't belong. And that needs to be decided before you head down that path. Current Christians, it depends on what your current outreach and interests are and your pursuits in serving the Lord and knowing Him better. If it relates to these books, they're not off limits. They're not a problem in that sense if you have the wisdom to read them as they are. My 5 cents on that.